name is Harbin, and today I'm going to talk about many of the college students' favorite beverage, beer. I'm not going to sit here and talk about the major companies like Anheuser-Busch, Coors, or Miller. Instead, I'm going to show you how to perfect the art of homebrewing your own beer. Many people might believe that homebrewing your own beer can be quite expensive. If you go to the store and try and buy a starter kit, it could cost you over $200. But today I'm going to show you the inexpensive way using tools around your house to make your own beer. First, I'll list the supplies, which include a brewing pot, which is preferably around 5 gallons in order to hold around 3 gallons of water without boiling over the edges when you boil your water. The second is a kitchen strainer intended to strain the grains and hops before fermentation. A thermometer is necessary to test the temperature of your water in order to know when to take it off of the stove. A large funnel is also needed to transfer the water from your brewing pot into your fermentation tub. A rolling pin is necessary to crush the grains that are necessary to germinate in the water. It is also needed 2 3-gallon jugs of water, 1 empty and 1 full, in order for beer and fermentation container. A fermentation airlock is also necessary. You can find those at your local grocery store for about $1. The airlock allows for CO2 to escape from your fermentating yeast and does not allow oxygen to come back inside. And the last supplies that you need are the bottles needed to store your finished product. The ingredients are just as simple as the supplies: 3 pounds of light dried malt extract, an 8-ounce crystal malt, which is simply cereal grains, 1 ounce of brewer pellet hops, which are necessary for the distinct taste and smell of beer. The hops also act as a stability agent for your beer. 1 pack of brewer's yeast, which can also be found at your local grocery store. The yeast is needed for the fermentation. And last is a 3/8 cup of sugar needed when bottling your beer. The first step in making your own beer would be to crush your 8 ounces of crystal malt. The simplest way to do this is put the malt inside of a Ziploc bag, take a rolling pin, and crush it while it's still in the bag. You want to be sure not to crush it too finely. You're not trying to make it into a flour, you just want to break the grains open. The second process is known as steeping, which is extracting the goodness from the crushed grains. The first step would be pour half a gallon of your water into the second empty jug. Once you've done this, mark the 2.5-gallon spot on the jug still full of water. As you can see here in the picture, this is the jug with half the gallon poured out, and he's marking the spot right there. That's necessary for the later steps. Second, you pour the remaining 2.5 gallons into your brewing pot. Make sure to leave at least 3 inches at the top of your pot to avoid boiling over and causing a mess. Once you've done this, add your 8 ounces of crushed grains and set the pot to 150 degrees. Once you've reached 150 degrees, turn off the head, cover the pot, and leave for 30 minutes. This is necessary for the germination of your crushed grains. Once the 30 minutes is up, take the strainer and remove the grains with the strainer. It's okay if there are a few grains left. As you can see here, this is them adding the grains to the brewing pot, and here is the strainer when the 30 minutes is up, coming in and get them, and you can tell there's a little bit left, and that's alright. The next step will be the boiling of your new contents. Bring the contents of the pot to a boil, and then remove the pot from the heat and mix your malt extract. Once you've mixed your malt extract, return to heat and bring the pot to a boil. It is important to watch out for boiling over. Once again, you can't emphasize enough how bad that is. Once the pot is at a controlled boil again, add 2/3 ounces of your hop pellets. Once the hop pellets are added, maintain this constant boil for 60 minutes. Once the 60 minutes is up, turn off the heat and add the rest of your hop pellets. Let the new hops sit for about 10 minutes to steep even more for added flavor and aroma. It is important at the last 15 minutes of the boiling to set your kitchen strainer inside the water to sanitize it. We don't want any different types of bacteria on your works. Once you've finish the boiling process, there's now a substance in the pot called wort, which is basically unfermented beer. The next step after creating your wort is to cool the wort as fast as possible. Create a cold water bath in your sink using ice and water. Just plug the drain, fill it up with ice, and fill the rest up with water. Once you've done this, set your brewing pot inside and wait until the pot is cool enough to touch with your hands. If it's cool enough to touch with your hands, it's ready to be transported into the fermentation tank. The transportation of the wort into your fermentation tank isn't very hard. All you need is to pour the wort into the fermentation bottle using a funnel. Make sure the funnel is sanitized. Now in this picture, they have the funnel. They have their empty water bottle, their jug. They have their funnel and their kitchen strainer to catch any loose grains. It's important that the strainer, the funnel, and your empty water bottle are all sanitized, because once this is in the water jug, it's going to be sitting for at least 10 days, and there's a lot of bacteria that can come up from that. Once you've poured into this, you remember in step 2, marking your 2.5 gallon mark. If the new wort does not fill up to the 2.5 gallon mark, simply add water until it does. The next step in the process of making your own beer is a brewing term called pitching the yeast, which simply means adding yeast to the wort. Wait until the wort is at room temperature. If it has to heat up from being cooled or still has to cool down, just wait till it's at room temperature. The brewer's yeast is then added, but make sure you don't use too little. Usually whenever you buy the brewer's yeast from the store, there's enough to make a 5-gallon batch of your home brewed beer. This recipe, we're only making about 2.5 gallons. So it's important that you use half of that pack or just a little more. It's better to use more than less. Fermentation is caused by the yeast. It's a metabolic process of converting sugar to CO2 and alcohol. Once you have poured the wort into the fermentation tube, as I showed you earlier, then you pour the yeast and it begins to ferment. For the first 12 to 24 hours, you won't see much, a little fizzing, but once you leave it for 10 to 7 days in a cool, dark place, you should see something like this. There's a lot of foam and bubbles on the top. And it's important that you leave your yeast in a cool, dark place with no direct sunlight. After the 7 to 10 days, you got your beer. The only thing is you can't drink it yet because it'd be flat. Before bottling, you have to prime it, which is adding a measured amount of additional fermentable sugars before bottling. That way it tastes refreshing. That's when the 3/8 cup of sugar comes in handy. You boil the 3/8 cup of sugar, 1 cup of water for 5 minutes. Cover and let it cool, and then add that to your fermented beer. And that's when you need the bottle. Any bottling, you choose whatever bottle you want. You can use leftover beer bottles with caps, use recycled wine bottles, you can even use plastic bottles. It doesn't matter, whatever you want to, as long as they can withstand the pressure created from more CO2 being made. So those are the easy, simple steps to making your home-brewed beer. As Plato once said, he was a wise man who invented beer. I didn't invent beer, I'm just teaching you how you can make your own instead of paying all that money for a 12-pack of Bud Light. Thank you and have a good day.